Okay, y'all, I'm going to talk to you about literary criticism. And we find that tab over here in the left menu bar. Now, when you looked at the types of literature that are existence in the world back in the first week folder, you chose some types of literature that interest you. Prior to this, many of you have been in an educational system where you wrote a book report. You read or watched something and you reported to the instructor, or you reported in some sort of essay what happens in that story. And that's fine. But now you have moved to a new level of higher education where it's time for you to take it to the next level. And that means that it isn't enough just to tell me what somebody did. It isn't enough to just say this is the story about a guy named Huckleberry Finn who goes on a series of adventures. Now, the important thing and the beautiful thing about literature is that you can move to higher critical thinking. How are we going to do that? How are you going to do that? Well, we start with literary criticism. Okay, so you say, why should I have to do this? Why can't I just do a plot summary? Why can't I just do a book report? And the answer to that is because in an enlightened society, those students, those people, those citizens who choose to engage in intellectual pursuits are required and held to a higher standard of critical thinking. And this is what you signed up for. You signed up to become an enlightened thinker. And that is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And that is why we are going to discover different ways to look at literature that will help explain the human condition, the importance of literature. And once again, the good news is you only have to study the things that are interesting to you. So we look at different ways that we have of exploring different types of literature. So just take a look at them real quick. Let's say I just love the work of one particular author, and I want to study his work and talk about what his goals were as a writer. That's called traditional criticism. And when you look in the examples folder on your left menu bar, you'll find an essay called the David Fincher Project, and that is where a student looked at the work of the filmmaker David Fincher. So that is what you would do if you wanted to look at the overall work of one person. If you want to go all lofty and have lots of fun, you can take a look at who is economically changed by this piece of literature. And that focus on economics is Karl Marx. And if you want to apply that, you can certainly do that if that interests you. Mythology and archetypal criticism, the first thing that we're going to talk about in week 1 is about this. Now, you think of mythology and you think of Harry Potter, but did you ever think of The Godfather as a kind of mythology? There are rules that govern any kind of mythology, and there needs to be a world of the story where rules apply. Well, The Godfather certainly meets that. So start thinking interesting ideas and concepts with that in mind. Psychoanalytic criticism goes into Freud, all the types of philosophers and psychologists, and answer the question, why does a character do what a character does? A structuralist likes to go through a text and take it to pieces and learn what and how the author wrote the work. Feminist criticism is not male bashing. It is not telling men, okay, what did we do wrong this time? It's a whole lot more than that, so take a look at that if that interests you. Reader response is something that we do in essay number 2, and it's the interesting way of thinking about how you are affected by a piece of literature. That concludes this tutorial on literary criticism.